Welcome to the Bend Like Bamboo podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Campbell, kinesiologist, resilience coach, and author who knows what it feels like when your body betrays you or burnout nearly breaks you. This podcast is for those healing from chronic conditions and autoimmune disease, and also for leaders navigating burnout and overwhelm. You're about to hear real stories of transformation, the messy middle, the breakthrough moments, the science, and practical tools that actually work. Because resilience isn't about being unbreakable, it's about learning to bend without breaking. Let's dive in.
And just doing it all. I was doing it
Yeah.
all. So it was time. So my body actually was the thing that stopped me. I ended up having an 11 centimeter tumor, and it was a fibroid. I had to have it removed. Luckily, it was benign, but I believe that was my little stress baby. For me, is about awareness. Now, how do you become resilient? I think it's about awareness and deep kind of honesty with yourself.
I am so excited to introduce today's guest, Laura Connarty-Duncan. So, Laura is the founder and CEO of Champion Women, a seasoned business leader with over 20 years of experience and a passionate advocate for women in business and gender equality. But what makes Laura's story so powerful is that she's lived it. Originally from Scotland, Laura immigrated to Sydney in 2012 to support her husband's career. And while raising two children without nearby family or community, she juggled leadership roles across sectors from arts organisations, non for profits, local governments, NDIS providers, and three national associations. And often she was the only woman in the boardroom. Laura has faced burnout. She's battled perfectionism. She's navigated the pressure to prove she could do it all. And there was a breaking point where she almost didn't make it through. But here's what changed everything. Laura took control and designed a life that was so much better for her. And now, as a certified business coach, career coach, ICF trained professional, and graduate of the Australian Institute of Company Directors, she helps other women in business do the same. Laura offers business coaching, leadership coaching, career coaching grounded in lived experience and proven frameworks. And she also partners with businesses to create diversity, equality, and inclusion strategies that actually work, not just ticking the boxes. And her mission is to champion women in business through empathy, strategy, and strength. Laura, welcome to the Bend Like Bamboo podcast.
Wow, thank you. Sometimes it feels like your life flashes before your eyes, and you're like, I've done all that. Yes, I have.
I know it's nice to hear it out loud, and you deserve that. You've achieved a lot, and I've had a few chats with you already. We've had a chat prior to this, and I really warmed to you. You've got a beautiful personality and energy, and I'm just thrilled to have you here this morning.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I've enjoyed talking to you. Thank you for having me on.
That's okay. So whereabouts are you coming from? Where's home for you?
Home for me for the last 14 years is the Northern Beaches in Sydney.
Yes.
And I do laugh because I actually live in what was the old forest area of the Northern Beaches. So no, I'm not on the beach, but we're now Northern Beaches Council, so I get to say that. But it's a lovely little quiet spot. We've got National Park, and I'm not far from the city or Chatswood or anywhere really. So I feel very privileged and lucky to be able to have lived here and raised my children here for the last 14 years.
No, it's a beautiful spot, isn't it?
Yeah.
Gorgeous. Oh, wonderful. Let's dive in. I've got so much to ask you. So let's start with the breaking point. I wanted to ask you, you shared something really vulnerable when we first connected, that you'd been there and the breaking point, which almost took everything. And you were juggling the leadership roles, raising the kids in a new country without family support, and often the only woman in the boardroom,
Yeah.
probably battling perfectionism and the pressure to prove that you could do it all. Can
Yeah.
you take us back to that moment and what did that breaking point look like for you?
Yeah. Um, so I thought there was one breaking point, but as I reflect on the more work that I do with more women, I realize there was probably mini burnouts before a big burnout.
Mm.
Um, but it was just the constant 20 years of raising children away from a support network and
Yeah.
family. And my identity was very much tied to my career, but we'd come with my husband's work and he was traveling. Being a male and being in IT, he earned a lot more than I did in the kind of not-for-profit sector, and I was in the
Mm.
arts. So the what happens to a lot of women is the mental load was with me. The children, when they were sick, it was me that took the day off. When they needed to be picked up and taken to activities and, school assemblies, and it was with me. And we do naturally, I think, as women, we have an instinct to care and raise our children. I think it comes from fear and protection. So some people might say that we overthink, but it's that protective kind of instinct where we're just always on and caring. And then trying to hold it down. So running from place to place and working every hour to get the work done to prove your worth, that you can be, a businesswoman and a mother, but feeling like you're maybe failing
Mm.
at it all. Um, and I realised some of that had to do with just me and my natural, the way I was. And the older I got and I worked with other women, I realised it was yes, it was perfectionism. Did I have boundaries? No, probably not. Did I say yes to everything? Yeah. Did I want to do really, really well at everything? And I wanted to prove myself and show people that I was, intelligent and capable, and but at what cost? Um, and then obviously we lived through COVID, and I worked for NDIS organisations, and you can imagine 300 adults with intellectual disabilities, complex needs, housing, a royal commission, mandated vaccines, looking after these 300 adults and their families, 100 staff. I lived through that, and I think that was my first kind of mini burnout. And then being in a very male dominated environment, I was the first female who was in, executive role, who was in the boardroom, who was 2IC to the CEO. I was traveling, I was doing everything. Children have become more complex. They have needs. We know, psychology, anxiety, ADHD, all of the things that we're living now. Um,
Yeah.
and I was, and I think after being at home in COVID, I realized when I was in the office, I was so on that I was exhausted when I left. And I thought,
Yeah.
if you're in the office and this is so exhausting, then it's performative. You're putting on a mask. It's not aligning with you if it's so exhausting. So yeah, I realized I wasn't looking at, I wasn't well. I wasn't sleeping. I had headaches every day. I was clenching my jaw.
Yeah.
I'd put on weight. Everyone's saying, oh, it's menopause. I looked like I was pregnant. And I was frustrated at just giving and giving and giving for 20 years and not getting a lot back, I think. And then am I doing this right? Am I proud? But it was circumstance that kind of led to frustrations as well of a glass ceiling
Yeah.
and just doing it all. I was doing it
Yeah.
all. So it was time. So my body actually was the thing that stopped me. I ended up having an 11 centimeter tumor, and it was a fibroid. I had to have it removed. Luckily, it was benign, but I believe that was my little stress baby. That
Yeah.
was everything all together. So I did always have in my head that this giving everything, working constantly,
Yeah.
had to stop at some point. How long could I go for another 5 years? Could I go for another 10 years? Am I going to have to work till I'm 70 and keep working like this? So I
Yeah.
did have this small little thing at the back of my head that by the time I was 50, I would be on boards and I would have my own business or be my own boss and be able to implement for myself and all my workers an actual culture that was good for them rather than just
Yeah.
business driven. So yeah, that was it. That was 18 months ago, and I had the operation. I, left the job. I decided what was I going to do with this 20 years of experience. And I wanted to share that knowledge with people. And I realized that I needed a certain kind of support that I didn't get or I didn't ask for, I wasn't aware of. And I want to be that person. I want to share that knowledge. But I really want to bring in the balance of being human. And yes, we can do strategy and organizational development and people and culture, but really we have to look after each individual. And if we can help women be leaders and sustainable leaders. That's my goal. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that I really resonate with that for my Thrive clients who are women leaders in business. It just the resilience coaching and the leadership work is not
Mm,
enough. It is also about nervous system regulation and getting to
mm,
the cause of what is causing stress. How do we
yeah.
balance that? How do we get you out of that fight or flight stress response?
Mm,
And what's unique to everybody is what drives them to perfectionism, and I
yeah.
really resonate with the word you used, performative,
Yeah.
because when we're so on and exhausted, you said we become performative. Tell me more about what you mean by that. What does
Mm.
that look like when we're performative? And then what's the opposite to that?
I think I noticed I was that exhaustion,
Yeah.
of and I would back to back meetings and meetings and meetings. And I would begin to like, I just need to go for a walk around the block in between. But I was like, oh, so relieved when I got out of that office. But when I was there, and I had one of these lovely goldfish bowl executive offices. Honestly, you don't know what that does for people. Like, I would rather be out with you're kind of behind a glass bubble, and then
Yeah.
you're leading meetings after meetings and you're running from one to the next, and then
Yeah.
you're doing the work at night as well as
Yeah.
delegating. So yeah, I could really feel that as soon as I walked out and went for those little mini
Yeah.
breaks, even going to the bathroom was like, oh, and then I would realize this is draining me more than it used to. And that's when I began to realize, is it performative? Is it not a natural state? And I knew I wasn't being the best version of me if it felt so much like just unaligned to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
unaligned, and you fall off path. Performative. In Chinese medicine, there is an emotion that comes up called false pride, and
Right.
that's where we're out of balance and we're trying to be proud of the busyness and
Yeah.
trying to be successful, and you're trying to be something so
Absolutely.
much that it becomes performative, and we lose our authentic self. We
Yeah.
lose touch with who we really are, and sometimes how we feel at all. And that disconnect is also what creates that stress response where we're not aligned in the mind, body, and the soul journey.
Yeah.
So, then what's the opposite to that, do you think? Because that's obviously the knowledge that you share with your clients. And how
Yeah.
do you come out of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So as part of my business coaching, and I did a certification, I needed a life raft to hang on to. And people were like, Laura, you've led businesses for 20 years. What are you doing a course to become certified? And I was like, to build a whole course and a framework and everything. So it was great for me in the sense that it had a framework and it had the content and
Yeah,
it had a community of other women who were like me. So one of the things that I actually hadn't ever done in 20 years of leadership, believe it or not, was values. Like, we didn't talk
yeah,
about value based in all of those
yeah,
extremes. So it was really digging deep in that work and and going, it's not just business, it's person. And so becoming really clear and doing that deep exploration of what are my values, what brings me joy, kind of going back to my childhood as well, and what did I want to be and what did I enjoy and what have I lost in this journey. And so yeah, values based work helped me, still helps me, and
yeah,
I revisit and I talk about it all the time at my clients. And I even realize in organizational development, we should be hiring in terms of we wouldn't have a lot of the problems that we have if we did value-based work with who we brought into our business and whether we're
yeah,
aligned. Yeah, so that alignment piece is huge for me, is just being really aligned and then also being really clear about what's not for sale, what you can't buy. So you can't buy my health. You can't buy, time with my family. You can't, nothing is worth absolutely nothing. And, I live in Sydney, beautiful part of the world, extremely expensive, which is why people do it. But I kind of wanted to say to people, there is another way to live. And we
yeah,
do waste so much money and we think we have to keep up. So I stripped all of that back, and just went, oh, we thought we couldn't survive without this salary. We absolutely can. We can live a different way and actually a happier way, a more aligned way. I can be more present. So it was about, and talking about the nervous system, I just have to go back, Amanda, that my clients say this to me now, and I know that people used to say this to me then, is I would talk fast. My nervous system was up here.
yeah,
So people would, because I was go, 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 go. I was doing so much. I was just on all the time. And I would meet some girlfriends, these girlfriends you've had for 10 years that you might meet for a coffee every 6 months.
yeah.
And sometimes they'd be like, whoa, that was your lot. Like even at the weekend after a yoga class, I
Yeah.
was on and my nervous system
Yeah.
was so, that's not good for anyone being in that constant fight or flight. So
Mm.
yeah, I rebuilt that life and I made priority. I had no sunlight in my office that I was in for 2 years.
Oh
So
gosh.
that's a huge thing, like I had
Yeah.
lack of vitamin D. And really, these
Yeah.
things that we don't take seriously really affect your well-being. So vitamin D deficient. So I just, yep, got healthy, prioritized me. I had a fantastic business coach myself, and she gave me the permission to heal. She was like, "You're going to have to heal from the burnout, and it can have a hangover and it can easily be triggered and come back."
Yeah.
So she was like, "If you do one thing good today," and I say this to my clients now, that's enough, to have
Yeah.
that clarity of where you're going first, slowly.
Yeah.
And she would say, once you've done one good thing, I'd say, I'm so tired. She'd say, well, go to bed, have a nana nap. It's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I had to rebuild.
It totally,
Yeah.
totally. That's amazing. And so when we're not performative on and exhausted, because also that deep inner frustration
Mm.
when it's not reciprocal and you give, and so much output, not enough input.
Yeah.
That also creates that stress and a
Yeah.
bruise on the inside, which affects the
Mm.
liver, and all sorts of, different aspects of the body when, yeah, that especially that anger and frustration. It just
Yeah.
sometimes we don't realize what causes stress, and it's just the stuff that we bury and push down.
Yeah.
And so the opposite of that would be alignment. When I'm not in that on state, I call it a return to self. And it
Mm.
feels like you're in your body, not out of your body. And we get very used to functioning split off and disconnected because it can be very difficult to
Mm.
acknowledge the grief and the anger that's actually going on inside of us. We can't
Yeah.
sit in that pain. And then when we can regulate the nervous system and we're less stressed, we can then open the heart again. And when we open the heart, we can be kinder to ourselves and also, of course, within our relationships. How do
Yeah.
you describe the opposite feeling to performative?
Yeah. Thank you. I loved how you put that. That was so well put.
Thank you.
Um, yeah. The opposite to that, I think it's that it is calming the nervous system. Like I actually speak slower. I walk
Yeah,
slower. I
yeah,
enjoy every moment. I have clarity about where I'm going and what the steps are, and I give myself permission to not do it under an unrealistic deadline. I suppose that's the joy of creating your own business in your own world and how you're going to work. And I get to work in this beautiful space with other people to say, how do we set boundaries and
yeah,
how do we do things at our own rhythm and really take the time to stop and think about why are we doing something and whether it serves us or whether it's
yeah,
something that we strip from our life.
yeah,
But if you get really clear on that and do the foundational work, it's easy to revisit and remind yourself if you get off track, I find.
yeah,
So for me, I mean, what it feels like in real terms is I'm not screaming at my kids. I'm not thinking about getting divorced. Like, you know,
That's a good point because they're the pain points of my clients that come and see me at the very start. I'm grumpy, I'm screaming at the kids, my
yes,
relationship's suffering, and these are the
yes.
byproducts and the consequences, aren't they?
I didn't have capacity,
Yeah,
and I wasn't prioritizing I wasn't prioritizing me and I wasn't prioritizing the relationships that really mattered. So I wasn't turning up anywhere really. I think even at
that's the
work,
opposite.
while I was trying to be really caring about people and being the best, leader I possibly could, it would misalign at
Yeah,
times towards the end.
yeah,
It
yeah,
wasn't, there was something misaligned, but it's a lack of support, I believe. I think if I had had the knowledge and the support I have now, I could have sustained that career probably, you know,
yeah,
through. Not that I don't, things happen for a reason and I love it and I'm able to help other women, but it's
yeah,
not to say we all have to leave corporate. It's
yeah.
actually that we need support.
What's the support that we need if we do want to stay in the corporate job?
Yeah, I mean, I truly believe what I give, but it's what I needed. So it's someone who you can trust, who blurs the lines of, yes, it's leadership coaching or yes, it's business coaching, but it's life, it's human, it's women to women support where you can talk about everything because it's part of it. We can't not talk about the marriage, the children, it's bringing those other pressures in. But I go between a mentor, a trainer, a coach, but that
Yeah.
kind of someone who's lived experience of you
Yeah.
know how it feels, and you've also made the change. You know it's possible. Like
Yeah.
I know it's possible. I'm a different person.
Yeah.
Um, so it's that, and I liken it to actually tiny bit of my journey was my kind of personal trainer, my nutritionalist. Um, but it's a very similar relationship. Like you go to someone and go, "Oh, I'm a mess. What do I do?" And they go, "Right, let's do this, and just day by day, and it takes time." And I've watched that change, like becoming stronger and
Yeah.
walking and lifting weight. I feel like, oh, I'm not,
Yeah.
and it's had so many, and like thinking I was perimenopausal, putting all the cream on, having the night sweats, doing it
Yeah.
to now actually. I
It was
mean,
stress.
touch wood. It was, yeah. A lot of it
It
I
was
think was
stress.
stress induced.
Yeah.
So stripping all of that back, those issues don't feel like they're there or they're not as extreme. But as accountability partner, allow someone to the way that I coach is. When I first started, I wanted to help everyone and give them all my knowledge and talk to them and talk at them and take all this. Now I really realize, having done, the deeper coaching training, is yes, I can help and I can give that information, but it's much more impactful if it's questioning and it's
Yeah.
deep thinking and reflection from the client, and
Yeah.
you're guiding them really, but the answer has to come from them, the clarity has to come from them, and you can't,
Yeah.
I'll write you an action
Yeah.
plan. Most people won't do it. You have to
That,
I have to help you write your own action plan, but you're going to come and see me each week or each fortnight so that
yeah.
you've got that accountability, and it's like, oh, I have to do this because I'm going to see Laura and I have to upload the workbook and talk
Yeah, I
and
love the
yeah.
integrated approach that you take because that's right. It's not just about teaching something, it's creating that a space for transformation for your
Mhm.
client. And it's that penny drop, it's that epiphany, and that thought and thinking and mental and emotional process changes the biochemistry, which can shift someone out of that fight or flight stress response into
Yeah.
growth and repair. And that's why I use kinesiology in my coaching because it's that
Yeah.
deeper subconscious nervous system regulation that integrates the change and facilitates the opening of the mind. And it's a soul journey. It's a it needs to be supported by exercise, nutrition, mindset. But
Mhm.
yeah, you're assisting people to recognize what's next. And that's why revisiting your values is really important because they change when you go through something like this. You're not
Yeah.
feeling well, you know something needs to change. So revisiting values is part of that.
Yeah, and it's also like, what is that support? It's not just me. Like when I have those conversations with people, I'll say, oh, they've not even heard of kinesiology, or I can tell them about you, or whether it's when it's the right time to say yes, marriage counseling, it might be a good idea, or a psychologist might be, oh, why don't, but also,
Yeah,
yeah, letting people know there are other supports and
that's right.
coaching, so many other things. They're completely unaware there's so much out there to try to find their right thing.
That's right.
Yeah, so it's not I will be their only partner. It's going through that journey of
Yeah.
exploration of what works for them.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why I do these podcasts so I can
Yeah.
share amazing specialists like you that where someone's going to need more your work, and
Yeah.
we're all so we're multi-dimensional beings. So what
Mm,
works for one person may not be the exact formula of what the other person is going to need, and if we
yeah.
can just all work together and to help women, I think that's what your mission is, isn't it? You at
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
end of
And
the
it's like
day.
your story and your experience and your expertise is completely different from mine. And there's lots of
Yeah.
people out there. So they might come to me at one point in the journey because they need something from my
Mm.
bucket of tools, and then, you know,
Yeah.
go to you
Exactly.
because of something else. So I love that, and that's what it should be about. And that's
Yeah.
going back to the kind of champion women is, let's not compete with each other as women. Let's, hold each other
Yes.
up. Let's support each other. Let's learn from one another. That's what the kind of old women's circle is, of
Yeah.
kind of sharing the stories and the wisdom and
Yeah.
passing it on from women
Yeah.
to women to generation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, let me ask you about resilience because this is the juiciest part of the podcast. And
Yeah.
I know you've spent 20 years working across lots of industries and, when you were only the only woman in the boardroom. But there's something I think really important here about what resilience might mean in those spaces. And for many of my Thrive listeners of women, leaders, executives, and founders, they're not just dealing with the normal pressures of leadership, but they're also navigating being underestimated, being the only woman in the boardroom, and having to prove themselves over and over. So, what did resilience look like for you in those environments? And how did you learn to bend without breaking when the pressure was really up?
Yes, this is a good one. As as a leader of people as well, it was um something we talked about a lot was that they need to be more resilient. But how do you teach people resilience, or how do you, that capacity for resilience? And I had a self-belief that I was very resilient. I was kind of born with it culturally, we're Scottish, we're tough. I have family who were miners, and my dad would say, I went down the mines at 8 years old, cleaned cups and did a milk round. We don't have any problems in this modern world where
Mm.
we have a lovely home, and so I wore that like I am resilient. I was raised with that self-belief. That's how I spoke to myself, was I prided myself on my kind of toughness and resilience, and just say yes to everything and just do it and get it done and don't complain, kind of mentality. And I have an amazing model who's my mother, who I now realize I attribute more than every day. I realize she gave me this self-belief. It was that mindset. So when I was younger, I was mildly dyslexic. My mom was a teacher, and she was like, "You're very intelligent, high IQ." We, did lots of different things, but she was like, "You can do anything, and this is your superpower." Before we knew it was a superpower, and Richard Branson's and Divergent
Yes.
Mind, she
Yeah.
made me feel, you get on the stage, and I did acting, and she was like, "But you've got all these fantastic attributes." So mindset is about how you talk to yourself, but life happens,
Yeah.
and we do. I think for a lot of women, if you do have that self-belief, self-doubt can start to creep in. And then I realized, just because my mum also was, a very successful businesswoman, she worked 24/7 and this kind of wore this cape like a superwoman. We can't all go 24, like be amazing mothers and work 24/7 and not look after herself and just give, 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 give. It's not possible, and it's okay. So I think for me, resilience has become something else. And resilience for me is about awareness now. How do you become resilient? I think it's about awareness and deep kind of
Yeah.
honesty with yourself and what
Yes.
you need to do, the fill the bucket scenario. So it's not about the tough person who goes 24/7 and does everything. It's about we're all individual and we're all unique, and we all have different levels that we need of self-care and balance, and working out what we need to do to look after ourselves physically, emotionally, and mentally, to be able to have
Yeah.
resilience is sustainability. How do you continue to do what you want to do, moving forward bit by bit without these unrealistic expectations and pressures, and not at the cost of you and everything else around you for a business?
Exactly. I love your new definition of resilience, awareness and honesty and filling those buckets. We live in a world of polarity, so it's okay to lose ourselves completely and to go in the other direction, because then it's that perfect comparison of, oh, actually, this is the way that aligns more. And learning both sides is the point, I think, of how the universe works here on planet Earth: up, down, right, left, joy, despair. How do we know one without the other? And there's a lot of suffering that goes into that. And I think the other point that, and why we love what we do, is how to provide that support through those most difficult moments
Yeah.
when it is harder, before you've come and seen the light and life's better and you're able to make on the other end of that transformation. The middle part before it's happened, but you're sort of letting the old you go, is very difficult. And also when you're in the crux of at the very start, where it's exhausting but you have no awareness yet, that's so difficult. And support is so key. I think back to so many moments where I know things would have been vastly different if I had had more support, which is why I think that I'm a kinesiologist and coach because I just love giving that to others. It's life changing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And I think we do, as you story, but we all go through something, and I think that's why we get into this.
yeah,
But it's also to say, you know, I'm not a finished product and I definitely don't know all. I think it's the fact that I'm still on that journey every day. I've always been curious. I've always loved to learn. I've always been open-minded. So
yeah,
I'm listening to things and reading things for myself and for my clients and sharing it and growing day by day by day. But we're
yeah,
in that space, aren't we? So
yeah,
I suppose that's the luxury as well, is that we get to
yeah,
do that for it and then share that with other
yes,
people. Like I love listening to something new or learning about someone new and then thinking, oh, that really helped me. I can't wait to tell my clients and my community and my friend, about
yeah.
this teaching that I've learned or something new that I've tried.
Yeah, and there's so much support out there. It's
Yeah.
there. It's just, it
Yeah.
comes into our awareness when we start believing in that. And that's why
Mm.
podcasts and community and getting together and having it in the forefront of our brains, which is what I'm wanting to develop next in Bend Like Bamboo. And we were just talking about that before. I love podcasting, but I think what I want to do next is in my Bend Together community is create more regular, weekly, live podcasting in a community where we can all, meet beautiful specialists just like you and learn from you and to have an opportunity to ask questions. And then we're all more connected together where, oh, yeah, I might meet someone this week in clinic and go, no, 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 you need Laura's help.
Yeah.
And
It's,
that's
I
real
mean, it's
community.
such valuable work. And I think, unfortunately, for a lot of women, it's the overwhelm of there's so much out there and not knowing who to trust or who to listen or where to start.
Yeah,
But I would just say
that's true.
start anywhere. Start with someone,
Yeah,
that can open the door and introduce you on that journey. And I do remember, like this, I think this is really important. I really remember putting the children first and the bills and the family and feeling touching on like finding a coach or doing something for myself and thinking I couldn't. It would be selfish of me. Like we
mm,
and now, I think how crazy that sounds,
I
but I
know.
know there's lots of women out there that just like there is no one more important than you
Yeah,
in this life.
absolutely.
And even if you're like me, where you were raised to give back and look after others, you have to look after yourself first because you can't do anything well unless we start with ourselves. Um,
Absolutely. Even
yeah.
if it's just a once a month, you touch base with someone that you trust, and and nothing but good comes from that positive change, and you putting yourself first, and all the learnings that will happen in the work you do with someone, and then the universe will provide in a way that will help accelerate that if that's what's supposed to happen. But just starting and saying yes and coming out of victim and choosing empowered decisions like that is actually probably half of the work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the your method. So you founded Champion Women to support women in business with empathy, strategy, and strength. And I love that you describe your approach as person-centric, using best practice and continual improvement. And I know you offer business coaching and leadership coaching, career coaching, and you also cross over into the wellness space, which is where our work really aligns. Can we talk about your approach and what it looks like when a woman comes to you in burnout, feeling overwhelmed and maybe like she's failing at both work and at home? How do you help her design a life and business that aligns with who she actually is, not who she thinks she should be?
Yes. So the first breakthrough is when women recognize that they need support
Yeah.
or they want change. And it tends to happen at it can be, I have women who are in leadership and are realizing I haven't made time for a partner or to have a child, but that was something that I wanted. or whether it's women who have a business and then, being successful young women then had a child, or whether it's a woman whose children are going off to university and they find themselves. And that was kind of my point, was I've done 20 years, I got them through school, I've done everything, and now it's, time for me. And is this the life that I want? So the first thing is that they have a little bit of awareness around about that, and they're searching for something. Often they don't know what they're searching for. So it's finding a coach that you just resonate with, because we're all different. I will appeal to certain people, and you will, and different coaches will appeal to different people wherever they are on their journey. So finding someone that you just feel like you resonate with, that you can relate to them, um, and you think you can have a trusted connection with, because you're building a partnership of trust, and we do go deep.
Yeah.
And I have some clients who start with me on business and they want to talk strategy, and it's very, what we
Yeah.
do, but business oriented. Very, very quickly, within a few sessions, we will get down to the crux of it, and relationships and life and being human and being a woman and menopause or hormones or whatever their journey has been with fertility. It will come into the equation, and it is a very important part of the equation. So being in that trusted space.
Yes.
But often it is also burnout and thinking they've become a little bit disconnected from themselves.
Yeah.
So I'm not, I don't love who I am, whether it be you're cranky with the kids, or you're not, the relationship's not what you thought, or you find yourself a little bit intolerant of people that go slow at work because you're going so fast, or so it's the awareness of going, this is unsustainable, and I need to do something about it, really.
Yes.
And then I
Yes.
will help them realize. Some people will think they'll come to me so that I can just tell them what to do. And I have had that, and it's making them realize that it needs to come from them, because it really won't have, they need to be committed, they need to be willing to put the work in, they need to be willing to prioritize themselves and this work to see the change, and that it doesn't happen straight away. It's a process. But it's a process that you have to trust and have faith in, and it does work. And it
What's
does.
the time frame for you typically, do you think, where the change happens when they're doing the work, they're applying themselves? What does that timeline look like in your
Yeah,
experience?
I think to see real change, because we know it takes time to set new habits.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, and it can take a while to really truly deeply explore, not just do, oh, these are my values, write them down, move on, let's do the next bit. It takes time. So 6 months, I would say minimum, but 6 months to a year
Yeah.
is where people, and then, people will stay as well and want to do
Yeah.
more, or they'll understand that process. And it's actually a growth cycle that they can then do with other
Yeah.
practitioners or with other areas in their life, or they can self-apply.
Yeah.
It's a toolbox of things
Yeah.
that they can say, is that real clarity, and direction, which takes time. And then, okay, so what are the steps that I need to take to get there? What
Yeah.
do I need to learn? What
Yeah.
kind of support do I need? What
Yeah.
growth do I need? And then let's pack it down. But also, I do a three. So I think if you do anything in more than threes, it's overwhelming. I
Yes.
tend to break it down, like, what are your three goals, or what are the three actions you're going to take?
Yes.
And just work on them at one at a time. And again, I'm learning as how I can best serve my clients. So, like I say in the beginning, I was keen just to give information and give people good value for money, and let's do 6 sessions and I'll teach you all about business. It doesn't work that way. It's much more impactful when it
Mm,
is a slow, steady, considered process.
mm, I love that.
Yes.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah.
But and yeah, the deeper transformation with my work too would be at least 6 months. Sometimes I start with 2 months just to solve a problem, to build that trust and to
Yeah.
introduce my type of coaching and what kinesiology means. And then once, yeah, you've experienced that mental or physical shift, then you can then understand the work to go deeper. And I've seen clients monthly for 10 years back to back, that have, yeah.
Amazing.
And they're
Amazing.
they're my favorite regulars, obviously, because you become so close, you go through so much together, and it's such an honor to walk someone through that journey. It's
Yeah.
very vulnerable, and they trust you to hold that space, and it needs to be honored.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's hard because for people that don't know, you want to give them a flavor of it, don't you? So
Yeah,
I have definitely, started with 6 sessions,
yeah,
but it's my boundaries as well, and it's what's really good for them and yes, they will get a taste and they will get a flavor, and I'll do the same. A lot of my clients 6 or 12 maybe
yeah,
over 3 months, and
yeah,
then yeah, if it's a good alignment, then it can it's
yeah,
ongoing.
totally. Yeah,
Yeah.
it often takes a little bit of customization too, don't you think?
Yeah, we're all very different and people need different approaches.
Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
suppose the champion women kind of method in the way that I do things is bespoke, and it is adaptable because we are all slightly different, and that comes back to my kind of studies and interests in psychology and managing lots of people and realizing we're all different and understanding how different people need a slightly tailored approach.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they'll come in and they'll, reestablish their values with you. You'll do a deep dive into their personal lives as well, and there's an opportunity to do some business strategy.
Absolutely. I mean, I've ran businesses for 20 years as a GM and an ops manager. So that was 360 of the business. And I sit on boards today and I manage leaders in that organizational development consultancy that I like to stay
Yeah.
also knowing what the business needs, but empowering women with skills as well and knowledge. I absolutely love marketing because it's the creative side and we all need it. And I love doing my own marketing. Um, but the strategy, culture, risk, the whole plethora of customer service, technology, transformation, events, whatever it might be. And that's what keeps me on my toes, and it keeps me across everything, current trends and what's happening. And I really love that, to be able to kind of pull on that broad skill set for people. And we can quite easily go down that path if someone's having an HR issue within their business, or
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
PR, communication, risk. But it all comes up to that
Yeah.
top level, like when I'm on a board, the governance piece,
Yeah.
which I really enjoy. That keeps my kind of business intellectual brain going. So I enjoy
Yeah.
that. And it's not one or all. I think that's the thing. I did that for so many years and I left the person at the door.
Yeah.
But what I love now is I've always had this I like to be really honest. Like, I love to just be to be really honest. So I bring this human honesty to the conversation and say that's all well and good, but at the end of the day, it's people that are behind business as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Absolutely. Oh, I'm so glad to have found you. I know so many of my clients that need your help. And yeah, now you're part of the community. It's so great. It's so
oh,
great.
thank you.
I would love to finally touch on your work with gender equality.
Yeah.
And I know that you help companies attract and retain and support women and diverse people. I think it's so important because we can't just tell women to be more resilient in broken systems. We have to fix the systems. And based on your 20 plus years of experience across sectors, what are the biggest mistakes you see businesses make when it comes to supporting women? And what does real gender equality look like in practice? Not just policies on paper, but actual cultural change.
Yes. Wow. I mean, this really does come down to this is within me from a child, like a mother who born in the 1950s, who ended up, being in government and an executive role. And that would have been quite unusual then. And I talked to you about the way that she had to work to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
There was so many sacrifices and what she had to do to prove that. And then my own experiences, and I ran women's development programs all around Australia, hundreds and hundreds of women, and listening to their everyday experience, especially in male-dominated roles. I just can't believe it's 2026 to be honest, that we're actually talking about this, that we're still living in a world that is designed by men for men. I'm just going to
Mm,
say it. It
mm,
really is. There is, women, it's like we go back to women role is to have children, domestic chores, do all the caring and have no financial freedom. And then I think, well, if women can't earn the same because like me, I had children, I took time off work. When you take time off work, you're not
mm,
learning anything. When you try and go
mm,
back into work, you're
mm.
then, going into probably a lesser role because it has to be part-time or flexible, or you have to go with children, then you don't have your super. And then there's
It's
lots
very
of
vulnerable. It puts a woman in
it's
a very vulnerable position. And I watched my mother
yeah,
experience the exact same thing. And it put her in a very vulnerable position, particularly when my parents ended up getting divorced when I was,
absolutely.
yeah,
So
14. And yeah,
It's
it's
it
like you
takes
think
me right,
about,
and I think, oh, we're in a modern society, and we think we're living somewhere, but are we not talking about the fact what it really means? The society is structured no different than some other societies that we would raise our eyebrows at, that women don't get to, vote without permission. But we're living in a world where women don't have their own financial freedom, therefore they don't have freedom. If you don't have freedom, what are we?
mm,
We're trapped.
mm,
We're powerless,
yeah,
So I just want to put that out the front. And I know that that's sometimes, I wouldn't always have that conversation. Like nowadays, the way that things are going with the world, you can't even say gender equality. You can't say diversity, equity, and inclusion have become dirty words that companies are dropping. We now have to go under the bigger umbrella of organizational development.
yeah,
We're battling so how can we be in 2026 where the workplace isn't innovative enough to think about how do we have women and men equally in the workplace? How can men spend more time with the children and do more? How could there be flexibility? And we're only talking about women, which I'm a little bit embarrassed about because we're not even talking about other genders or, if we can't even accept women into
mm,
leadership roles,
yeah, absolutely.
how trans or any other kind of genders or any other kind of diversity or race, and I've experienced it all here in Australia, unfortunately, in the last 14 years. And it's very hard to get inside the mind of someone that I can't relate to people who, so often embarrassingly, people would say, oh yeah, we've got loads of girls in the office. That's not okay. That's not an answer. I'm embarrassed for you that you just said that.
Yeah,
And people do have that conversation quite often. I'll go and say, oh yes, we have lots of women in our business. Well, what positions are they in? They're in lower, less paid positions. How many women do you have in leadership?
yeah,
And they don't. So where are the pathways? Where is the support? And really, if you look at companies who have diversity of thought and leadership, which represents the diverse world that we live in, if you're a really money business person, it actually shows there too. They're doing better when they have more diversity of thought and innovation and acceptance, and they're more like the world out there. The bottom line does better. So if that's the motivation that you need, the facts are there and the evidence is there. But also from a society and a moral and an ethical point of view, we just need to be more open-minded, really, and we need to
mm,
not allow the bias. And
yeah,
sometimes you do need to enforce um, policy, training, and what, even if you don't understand it, is just not accepted.
yeah,
In the workplace, there's so much work to do
mm,
within this space.
yeah,
But unfortunately, we're having to go round the back door or in the side or with a different excuse. But if I can go in and listen, one workshop's not going to make a difference. But if that's how I have to get in and that's how we do things, then I'm there for it. If it's one woman, one leader at a time, then I'm there
mm,
for it. If it's one woman in our career, I'm there. However, what I can do and what I'd love to do is actually go in and work with leaders, organizations, boards, CEOs, and actually do a full audit. Where are we? Let's look at the facts. Because many women and I've
Mhm.
experienced it, will get given that senior role. It's watered down, it's paid less, and the responsibility. Sometimes, if you outperform, you actually get responsibility taken off you. I don't know if it's a threat. I don't know if we're human and there's a threat to, of course, we need the jobs to pay for the roof and the food and the water and our families. Is there, but let's not be that. We surely have evolved beyond that.
Absolutely. What a really important topic. I'm
Yeah.
really passionate about this
Mhm.
because, um, yeah, I watched my mum really suffer as a consequence of, yeah, losing um, her power. In this situation. But also, you raise another point where, not only do businesses do better with more diversity, but homes would do better with more
Yeah.
diversity, with the
Yeah.
mum and dad sharing the responsibility of raising the kids. And it's just better all rounded. And I think you can make an enormous difference by one leader, one business at a time, supporting more women in leadership roles, and talking about this. It's uncomfortable
Yeah.
but it's a really important topic,
Yeah.
and I'm all for uncomfortable.
Yeah. And listen, I've been in rooms where I have had male allies, fantastic men who have said, I'm a bit embarrassed to say it, but I'm a feminist too. And I'm like, just take that I'm embarrassed to say it. Feminism is not a dirty word. It just means equality,
Yeah,
and the more men that say I'm a feminist, like my husband, and men in my life, and those
yeah,
men that were in powerful positions that were supporting women in leadership programs or
yeah,
development programs, there are some fantastic um, allies out there. We need the allies. We need to do it together.
yeah, yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Oh, Laura, this has been so wonderful. And thank you for sharing your beautiful wisdom with
Oh.
everyone today and for spending this morning with me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate it, and I will be following and supporting. And thank you for the invitation to be part of that your community that
Oh,
you're
yes.
growing. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, no, I'm so thrilled. I'm building something, it's slowly unfolding. I want to have specialists just like you within the community to, to offer us help to, women that are going through that need coaching, whether it's in their personal lives or within their business. And it's so great that you do both. And so if anyone wants to find you, it's championwomen.com.au.
That's me. Yep,
That's
I'm on
you.
LinkedIn, Facebook, and a little bit of Instagram for those
Yeah,
Insta
I will put
people.
all of your links in the show notes, and I'll write a blog and share this wonderful podcast. So, everybody listening, please remember that with a flexible mindset, we can adapt and transform our story and reimagine what can be possible. Thank you
Oh,
again, Laura. I'll see
thank
you
you.
all soon.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Bend Like Bamboo podcast. If this conversation resonated, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you're ready to go deeper, whether you're managing chronic symptoms, leading through burnout, or seeking guidance and community, I'd love to welcome you into the Bend Like Bamboo family. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'm here to support you wherever you are right now. Book a clarity chat with me and let's just talk about what's happening in your body, your work, and your life. All the links to join our community and also how to get in touch with our guests are in the show notes. Remember, with a flexible mindset, we can adapt, transform our story, and reimagine what's possible. I'll see you next time.